Okay, so this is section C of the exam paper, designing and making principles. Okay, so in here you be expected to answer a question which is related to the design process. So let's read what it says. It says the product should be shown below is a controller designed for use by designers when playing computer games. Specification. So list of requirements, obviously as you would know it by. So a spec tells you what needs to be there. So it needs to be lightweight, portable, allow the user to control actions on screen when playing different games, powered using rechargeable batteries. Batteries last for 25 hours worth of use before recharge is needed. Okay, so then it says, question 19. Ergonomics was used in the design of the game's controller. So straight away, the examiner says, state what is meant by the term ergonomics. So it says state. So in other words, you have to give a definition of what ergonomics is. Okay, so it's very simple. So ergonomics, so I will start by saying ergonomics is, okay, the study of how people interact or relate to products, systems, and their working environment. Okay, so it's to do with how you use products and how sizes relate as well, and even like the temperature, for example, how it feels like, how the visual effects or the visual outcomes of a product, how you look at it, the functions of a product, all these things relate to the ergonomics, how you use the product, how you design something to make it more useful for a person. Okay, then it says evaluate the use of ergonomics in the design of the game's controller. So we know that ergonomics relates to how you use the product. So the most obvious thing would be to talk about the buttons. So you would say something like, buttons need to be placed in an appropriate position so that they can be easily operated using fingers and thumbs. Okay, then you could talk about the fact that having the actual games controller, these parts curved, would also help in comfort. So you might say something like, the curved sections of the game's controller allows users to be comfortable okay, and then you could say, for example, then you can give a justification, say, however, the design could be improved by using rubber or elastomer grips to aid comfort and grip. Okay, but then you could say, for example, due to the cost to the added cost, the designer and manufacturer may have settled for the next best alternative. Okay, so that's how you would get your 4 marks. Okay, so moving to question 19.3 says, other than ergonomics, explain 2 improvements that can be made to the game's controller. So you could put down, for example, so they could, for example, the designer could have improved it in terms of how it looks like. Could have improved the design with better visual aesthetics. Okay, another one could have been, okay, actually say to attract teenagers. And the next one is they could have improved. So they is a designer and a manufacturer. Improved the battery life. Okay. Or added solar charging as a feature. Okay, so that's how you get the marks for that. Okay, now, so question 20, it says, sorry, let me go back and actually break down this exam question. So let's just highlight some command words that you need to look out for in an exam. So it says, other than the ergonomics, explain. So explain 2 improvements. So they want you to suggest better ways of making for the game's controller design. So explain and then improvements. So you have to suggest different features as we've done already. Okay, but let's make sure we actually go through, when you read an exam question, you look at the command words. Okay, so explain, describe, for example, arrange. These are all command words. They tell you specifically what you've got to do. Okay, now, so let's go to question 20. So question 20 is a maths question. So you get 1 mark for a correct working out, and 1 mark for correct answer, which applies pretty much to any 2 mark question based around maths. That is what is expected of you across most subjects. Okay, so it says 50 people were asked whether they liked how the game's controller showed on page 12 works. The results are shown in figure 3 below. Okay, so you're obviously being asked to look at this data and then make a decision, or draw maybe a graph or do some mathematical workings out. So look carefully what it says. It says the data was collected directly by the designer of the product. What type of data is this? So it's asking you. So it says what. So you need to explain, and then it asks you to put down type of data is this. So the type of data it is statistical data, but also it is primary data. Okay, so I will put down this data is basic statistical and primary data. okay, because it's first-hand data that was collected by the designer himself or herself. And it says calculate the percentage of people who liked how the product worked. Okay, so once again, 1 mark for the what's it working out, and then 1 mark for correct answers. Okay, so what you would do is it says the data was collected directly by the designer. Oh, sorry, calculate the percentage of people who liked how the product worked. So this one is the one we're looking for. So this is the actual this is what you should be looking at. So like, okay, so what you do is you would have to total up all of this. So first off, I would show the examiner that I understand the question by adding all these up. Okay, so first of all, you would add 18 plus 22 plus 10, which equals 50. Okay, then we would then go 18 divided by 50. Okay, so you have to bracket this as well. Let's bracket it. Sorry guys. Okay, a bit slow, but we'll get there. Okay, and then times 100. So that's my 1 mark. So I'm going to put 1 mark in brackets to show that you've calculated that's what you've got. But don't actually obviously do that in the exam. But I'm trying to show you that's what you get the 1 mark for doing that. So that's showing the working out. Then if you then are able to calculate and show that it's 36%, you get the other marks, you get 2 marks for it. So that's how you would get your 2 marks for that particular question. Okay, so let's now go to question 20.3. It says calculate the percentage of people who disliked how the product worked. So let's go back up again, and we can see that we're looking at this. So you're looking to calculate. Okay, well, highlight everything, but anyway, let's highlight. Why not? What the hell? Okay, so we're going to calculate now the disliked. Okay, who disliked it? So it would, once again, it would be, so you would bracket, so it'd be 22 divided by 50. Okay, times 100, and then the answer would be 44%. Okay, and then 20.4 says, so here now this is where you would actually have to draw out the graph. So using the information in the figure 3, complete the pie chart below, showing the percentages of people who liked, disliked, and were unsure about how the games controller works. So you need to know your degrees. So there's obviously 360 degrees in obviously 360 degrees in a circle. So you then need to calculate that for each section. So you would have to then convert the percentages to the 360 degrees and then draw it in the pie chart. I'm sure everybody knows how to do that. I haven't prepared the answer for that, so I'm going to leave that. But basically, you would get 1 mark correctly for, let's go back 20.3. Yeah, so you get 1 mark correctly for calculating the percentage of those unsure. So that would be, let's do that. So it'd be 100. Right, so sorry. Go back to question 20.4. You would have to draw obviously the pie chart, knowing how to convert the percentages into degrees. Okay, so you need to do that. Now let's look at question 20.5. It says asking for the views of product users is a form of market research. Name 3 other types of market research. Okay, so knowing the different types of market research, you would, so there is, for example, trial purchases. Okay, so trial purchases, so where companies get others to what's it? They sell products initially to see if the product will sell. Another one is identifying trends. So doing some research on the market to identify trends. So for example, if there's a new trend for trainers, Nike would then try to meet that demand by designing products to meet that particular trend. Okay. Um, Gathering information about competitors. Okay. So you also have like specialist companies like Mintel that do that as well. They gather information about competitors and then sell that market research, which costs thousands to companies. Okay, so that's how you would answer that question there. Okay, question 21.1, it says, when designing new products, the work of others and design companies is often analyzed. Explain why designers analyze the work of others. Well, you would analyze the work of others, okay, as we do with our product analysis, to gather information and to understand where mistakes have been made and where things have been successful. So you would put down, for example, you'll say to learn from past mistakes and successes so that this information can be fed into the design process. Okay, so that's how you would answer 21.1. Okay, so let's move on now to question 21.2. Name two designers for each name products that they have designed. So we could put down, for example, let's go for something like, so you would have to know your designers eventually. So Norman Foster, okay, and he designed the Gherkin. Okay, and then another one could be, okay, so I should have put the Gherkin over here, but you know what I mean. Okay, another one could be Coco Chanel. Okay, the famous Coco Chanel, and the Chanel suit. Okay, the Chanel suit. So you can look up all these, okay, and look up other designers that you can think of. So I'm sure a lot of you guys know people like Jimmy Choo, Harry. Hopefully you'll know Alexander McQueen, Mary Quant. Let's see, Marcel Brewer, Gerrit Rietveld, Charles Rene McIntosh, Eto Satsas, or Sotsas, should I say, Philippe Stark, Vivian Westwood. So any of these, and if you know any of their products that they've designed in the past, that will get you the marks. Okay. Now it says name one design company. Um, Explain the influence that this company has had on the design industry. So I'll give a list in this case, and then I think you should research. So for example, Apple. Okay, and there's a guy called Jonathan Ives who designed all the Apple products. Alessi, so look this up. Look up Braun, which is has influenced massively modern product design. Gap, so the Gap clothes company. Primark, okay, for example, you could put down Primark. Under Armour. Even research. There's a Netflix video on a designer, on the Nike designer, who designed like the Air Jordan. So you might be want to have a look for that as well. Do a search for that. Okay, and it's Zara. So all these are famous design companies that have influenced massively. So you can explain how they've influenced that by just looking into the research yourself and making comments. Okay, so now let's see. So we've done 21. We've done 21.3. We now have basically One, two, three, four, five. So we have 6 questions to go. So just bear with me. Okay. So it says, let's move to question 22. It says tolerances were used in the design of the game's controller shown on page 12. The overall width of the game's controller was designed to be 150.25 millimeters. The tolerance for this was set at plus minus 0.5 millimeters. State the maximum permissible width of the game's tolerance. Well, all you need to do is just add the 0.5 onto the 150.25. Okay, and let's say they said to you the minimum. All you would do is you would take away the 0.5 millimeters from the 150.25 millimeters. Basically, tolerance is the minimum and the maximum range, okay, that a measurement can be for a particular product. So for example, so what they're saying is the average might be 150.25, but the maximum size that they can tolerate will be an extra half a mil, and then the minimum size that they will tolerate will be an extra, would be a minus 0.5 millimeters. So in this case, we're asking us what the maximum is. So the command words are the following. Let me highlight the command words so you understand. So it's looking for tolerance. Okay, so that's to measurement. It's then giving you the actual measurement that falls, the nominal which falls in the middle, and then it's going to give you plus or minus, which means the plus or minus, the plus / minus means that give or take. So give minus 0.5 or take 0.5 away. Okay, and then the maximum permissible, so the maximum permissible width of the game's controller. Okay, so that's what it's saying to us. So the maximum that can be allowed, permissible means that can be allowed to get away, they can get away with. Okay, so you would then do 150.25 millimeters plus 0.5 millimeters, and it will be equals 150.75 millimeters. Okay, so that's the answer. And the next one is explain why tolerances are used in the design of products. Okay, so let's go through what tolerance is. So this is what I would say. A tolerance ensures the dimensions of a manufactured product are produced within limits that are acceptable. If tolerance are not used, then manufacturers will not understand the importance of a dimension. So basically, a designer will actually specify the tolerance. Okay, so the types of tolerance, the smaller the give or take, the more accurate the design will be. Okay. Okay, now if they don't, if they don't follow tolerances, this is what happens. This can lead to parts produced that do not fit together as expected. resulting in wasted materials. Additional time and cost to reproduce a part. Okay, so tolerances are very important because they save time, and if they're not followed, parts have to be reproduced, and that costs more money. Okay, so designer has to specify tolerances to give manufacturers an idea of what needs to be done. Okay, so now this is another maths question. So it says figure 4 shows a shape that is to be cut from a piece of material. Okay, and it's not to scale. It's giving you measurements, giving you A and B side. It's giving you an angle. So it's referring to using trigonometry. Okay, so knowing your trigonometry, your trig is very important. So it says it wants you to calculate the A side for this question. So the A equals 550 by the sine 28. So that will get you the 1 mark. And then if you say A equals 258 millimeters, this will get you the answer, the extra other 2 marks as well. Okay, and it says describe one method of reducing waste when planning the cutting of parts from a piece of material. So this is to do with how you would actually organize the material, the parts, or the pattern on a piece of material. So nesting is a method. Okay, is where, so this is what they're looking for. The word nesting is where, oops, what's going on with my typing? The parts to be cut are arranged to minimize the space between them. Okay, that's 1 mark. Whilst ensuring that all parts are produced in the right quantities. Okay, so that's 23.2. And then 24.1, describe the difference between user-centered design and systems approach. Okay, so user-centered design this focuses on the needs of the end user. Okay, at each stage of the design process. Okay, whereas systems approach focuses on the needs of having a system that has all the parts such as the input, process, and output working properly. Okay, so let's now move on to the next section. But before we do that, let's once again quickly go through the command words because I didn't point them out. So describe, okay, and it says the difference. So you got to describe the difference between the two, okay. So that's what you got to do: describe and the difference between. So you got to describe what they are and the difference between them. So let's now 24.2 explain the importance of avoiding design fixation. So you have to know what a design fixation is, okay. So now let me explain to you. Design fixation, which is very common amongst you guys sometimes, is when a designer focuses too heavily on their first idea, okay. This means that other potential solutions are ignored. Okay, so this can result in a design that does not solve the original problem. Okay, brilliant. So that is the exam paper. I've tried to explain to you and show you how. I've tried to model how you would answer the questions. It's very important you understand the command words. So there's lots of command words. I could just see one here again, such as describe and explain. Okay. Another one is a difference. So that's comparing and contrasting something between two particular points or topics. Okay, and then you have to do some mathematical calculations. So you have to show your workings out. First, you show your working out, and then you show the answer, and you get the 2 marks.